Hi all, I'm Al Daldean, the creator and producer of the Libby podcast. This 100% volunteer-run show was born out of the Rainforest Alberta movement and features incredible people who are leaders, innovators, and have big ideas. This episode is hosted by Rea Hailley, and it is the 10th episode of her series. Today, her guest is Sara Stepa. Take it away, Rea.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rea Hailley. I'm the co-founder of New Idea Machine. We design and build custom software, such as apps, integrations, and automations to solve your toughest problems and save you time and money. Welcome to 5 questions and 1 wild story, fempreneurs to watch for. Today's fempreneur is Sara Stepa. Hi, Sara. Excited to chat with you.
Thanks for having me, Rea.
All right, Sara, now tell us, what is it that you do and why is it important?
How much time do you have? I'm a very multi-passionate individual, but I'm going to try and narrow it for this conversation. So I have a deep-rooted passion for the nonprofit sector. I often say that I'm a diehard, and I support organizations and helping them secure grant funding in order for their mission to thrive. So I'm a big believer that more is not better, and that we need to be more strategic and bring our mission to the room first. So why is this work important to me? There's something about the nonprofit sector that is heartfelt. And the people that work in the nonprofit sector, they care so deeply and they do so much with so little. And to me, it just never fails to amaze me, the passion, the drive, and the grit that people in this sector have. And I don't think I'll ever be able to leave it behind because of that. And now I'm on this mission. I have this determination to raise the frequency of this sector through securing more funding, because of course, money makes things easier, but also working with individuals to make sure that the people working in this sector are really stepping up from a strong foundation of who they are and from a place of alignment, so they don't crumble under pressure. They're not crumbling under the weight of their mission. They don't fall apart when funding doesn't come through, when somebody decides to quit or leave, or the number of other pressures that they experience on a day-to-day basis. And that's really creating change.
I love that approach. And I can imagine that it must be quite tough for somebody who's very passionate, working in a not-for-profit and doing a lot more with a lot less. That kind of pressure gets to you, I think, at any point or at some point, it's going to catch up to you.
100%, which is really where I like to encourage nonprofits to really focus their work and make sure that they're staying aligned with their mission, with the intent and the impact that they're trying to have, because it can get really easy. We all do this, like entrepreneurs do it too. There's something shiny over here and we say, oh, I'm going to go over there and do this thing, or, oh, now I have a fun idea, or there's a collaboration, or big thing for nonprofits is there's a grant, there's a funder, and then they start to create something because there seems to be an opportunity, which is not always in line with what the work really is meant to be doing, or it just starts to spread individuals, teams, organizations too thin. And that's when the pressure really starts to get to people.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine that they would quite benefit having a champion like yourself on their side, helping them stay focused and aligned with what their true mission is, so that they can continue to grow and not just chase every grant that might come their way.
Absolutely.
What has surprised you the most about becoming an entrepreneur?
I've had my business for about 4 years. And first and foremost, I didn't consciously choose to be an entrepreneur. So I don't know how common this is. You talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, but I didn't leave my job in the nonprofit sector with the intention of starting a business. I just knew that the job that I was at, the role that I was in, it was no longer the right fit for me, and it was not sustainable. I was not doing well. I was no longer thriving. for a period, I was thriving. I loved that job. I was excited to come back from vacation. I was excited to go back to work. I was so excited. I loved my job that much. And then once that started to shift, I was like, I can't stay. I need to leave. And the biggest thing was I needed to make space in order for something new to come in. What that new thing was, I didn't know. But then I decided to start my own business, explore something of my own. And I really started with grant writing that has since evolved to a number of different things. But what has surprised me the most, especially in the first couple of years, was how much entrepreneurship tested me as an individual. And I've been immersed deeply in personal growth work for about 6 years. Started this work before I jumped into entrepreneurship, thank goodness. But I really found that the first year really taught me to trust myself, or what it means to trust myself, what it means to bet on myself, and what it really takes to stay the course when I didn't know if it was going to work or I wasn't sure what was next. And then finally really embracing this identity. I think identity is a huge element to any type of work that we're doing, that if we resist or we don't fully embody or accept that identity, there's a disconnect within. There's a disconnect from the work that we're doing. And it's usually at the belief level, but it creates these barriers and resistance to achieving what you're really trying to achieve. And because I didn't start a business with the intention of being an entrepreneur, I was like, oh, am I an entrepreneur? And over time, I was like, of course you are, Sarah. You are charging people money. You are providing a service. You are doing it on your own. No one else is bringing you clients or is responsible for your day-to-day. So identity was a really big piece, and accepting this role and being able to stay committed to it. Really, at the end of the day, I get to choose if I want to stay in this role or not. And it's been a wild ride.
Yes, it definitely is a wild ride. And I think what you said really resonates. Entrepreneurship really tests you in ways that you never thought possible. I've certainly gone through my fair share of challenges in my life. And I thought, nothing could be tougher than what I had experienced until I became an entrepreneur. And then I thought, oh my gosh, will I survive this journey? And I ask myself that often. But it does bring out these elements of strength within you. And you do discover your skill set and your strengths and your talent and your wisdom. And you certainly build on that wisdom as well. Yeah. There's nothing quite like it at all.
I agree.
And I used to say there's nothing tougher than being a parent until I became an entrepreneur. And now I say there's nothing tougher than being an entrepreneur, because it is so challenging. And I hear your point about that identity piece. When I was transitioning from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, I had one foot in each world, and I was hesitant. I was hesitant to even update my LinkedIn to say I'm fully an entrepreneur. And I had to sit with that for quite some time and accept this identity shift. Yeah. And then I was fully in. But since I've gone fully in, I haven't looked back.
Was there a turning point for you where you were like, okay, I'm ready to let this go and fully embrace the entrepreneur identity?
Yes. Good question. I finally got sick and tired of trying to fit myself into someone else's mold. And I hit that breaking point and I thought, okay, it's time for me to be me, fully me. And what is it that I can bring to this entrepreneurial journey? Because I know I can help people. I know I have helped people. I spent a career helping people. And and now I get to do it on my terms, which is very exciting.
The biggest values of entrepreneurs is that freedom to choose and do it your way, which is such a blessing. And then part of the curse of entrepreneurship is like you can do whatever you want. What a great blessing. But then holy crap, some days I just want someone to tell me what to do.
Yes, because the weight of every decision sits on your shoulders. And you're like, if I get this wrong, it doesn't just impact me, it impacts others as well. And that's scary.
I think the pressure of all leaders, right? When you're responsible for anyone that's a part of your business, a part of your organization, or whatever capacity that looks like, that there's a dependency. And that's where I think trusting yourself even more comes in. That if we don't trust ourselves to make decisions for ourselves, let alone that impact other people, then we're really going to struggle. And again, go back to that pressure and feel crippled by the weight of it all because we don't know what's going to happen. And we never know what's going to happen. But we think we can control things, but really we have to have faith and trust that we can make the best decision with what we know and what we have in front of us.
Yes, yes. And I have found that it certainly makes it easier when you have radical self-acceptance.
I love that.
Okay, now tell me, have there been any times where you've wanted to quit? And if so, what has kept you going?
I think every entrepreneur wants to quit on a regular basis. I would say that the first 2 years were probably the hardest, and I wanted to quit the most. And I thought I need to go back and get a real job, or I need to get a side job that will just pay my rent. And every time that kind of came up, there was just this little whisper in my head, you don't need that. That's not the way. That's not what you need right now. Just stay the course, really, at the end of the day. And in the last couple of years, so I've been running my business for 4 years. The last couple of years, it's really been what's made me want to quit is not knowing, I don't want to say what I'm doing, but what the next steps are. How do I drive this initiative forward? How do I create a greater impact? And how do I help more organizations while also building sustainability within my own business? And it's been shifting from, I almost want to say, an entrepreneur to a business owner, in the sense of I can try things, I can experiment, I'm building something new, to a business owner of what am I offering, who am I serving, and what does that sustainability look like for me and for them, and just continuously being of service. And so for me, it's not usually the revenue or the income that's like, oh, that feels good. But what keeps me going is always, I get those aha moments from my clients when they say, oh my gosh, I learned so much, or I never saw it that way before, or this has been so helpful. And then I'm like, okay, see, yes, I do know what I'm talking about. And then it's always reminding myself that I do know what I'm talking about. And usually in those moments when I want to quit, it has nothing to do with what's outside of me and more about what's happening inside of me. And it's usually an indicator that I'm doing too much, I'm outsourcing my value, or I'm just afraid because maybe I'm stretching my edges and doing something new. And in the past few months, I've really been bringing forth some new things to my community, to the socials. And it's felt quite scary because there's always a wonderance of, I don't know if this is going to work. But just last year, around this time, I was at a conference in Montreal, and I felt just like my vision land. And now I have such a bigger goal that I'm working towards. And now it's always about incremental steps, micro movements. What can I do today to get closer to that as I build my movement and as I build this company that I'm envisioning? And so now that's what really drives me, is this vision. It's taken me a year to accept my role in this vision. This was another thing. Last year I was like, oh yeah, that's it. And then it's taken me a year to really embody it and be like, yes, I accept my role and I accept myself as the leader of this, which took some time. And quitting, I think, is just a natural part of the process, but it's always going back to, why are you here in the first place? And I think a lot of people say that. It's almost cliche of like, next. There's something to it when you're driven by an innate desire versus what other people are telling you to do, or you're trying to prove other people wrong. So it's knowing what your motivator is. And a really deep-rooted value and motivator for me is also freedom. Mm-hmm. Freedom's a really big one. And anytime I think I don't want to do this anymore, I'm like, okay, do I want to go back to a 9-to-5 and have to show up Monday to Friday? And very quickly I say, no, I don't want to. So if none of the other pieces work, the why, my vision, my doubts, I can't overcome them. It's, do you want to give up your freedom? And hands down, it's always, no, I don't want to.
Yes, that's exactly what I used to when I want to throw in the towel. I'm like, all right, what's the alternative? 9 to 5? Hell no.
Yeah.
That keeps me going. And you said something interesting too. Like, I do suspect that most entrepreneurs have a subconscious fear of success, more so than a fear of failure, because stretching yourself and going out of your comfort zone and always asking, is this going to work? We don't know if it's going to work. It might be a complete flop, but taking that risk is really scary. But what if it does work? What does that mean then? Will it be a lot more work? Can you handle it? Will you fail? So all these other questions come up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a conversation that is starting to come into the entrepreneur circles of that fear of success. Remember the first time I heard it, it wrapped my brain up a little bit. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Why would I be afraid of succeeding? And then again, as I've been in entrepreneurship longer and I do put more things out or I do launch things, and I've been a lot more in tune with my body and my nervous system, I pay attention to, oh, this actually feels scary. Just because, like you said, is it going to be more work? Can I handle it? Will I be able to deliver? And my nervous system is, I don't know if you can, because I've gone through burnout. I've been in difficult spots where I pushed too far and then I had to climb and build myself back up. And my nervous system is saying, I don't want to go back there. We need to stay small. We need to stay status quo. And that's the edges that we need to meet to grow. But if we do too much too fast, then we'll actually shrink and collapse really quickly, whether through self-sabotage, whether through our own beliefs or our own doing. Sometimes it's just the external situation is, oh, things are a flop. And then we're like, see, couldn't do it. And it validates that belief in that thought circle. But if we titrate and incrementally lean into greater success, into greater expansion, that's where the growth becomes sustainable. And I'm just learning that now, where it's like, how do I do this incrementally? Not, oh my gosh, I need to launch all of these things at once and I need 50 people to sign up. I'm running a group program this fall and I'm just like, okay, I want 5 people in this program because that feels really safe. It feels like a bit of a stretch. I'm starting something new and we'll see what happens.
Excellent.
And so it's starting with those incremental goals so we don't blow out our system on our way to success. And then fear doesn't actually take over in the process.
Yes. I love that you have that awareness too. And I think having that awareness does protect you or insulate you a little bit from that burnout that can happen. And that often does happen.
Yeah.
Now, what are people most surprised to learn about you?
I have a few things I would say. I'm an avid traveler, love to travel. That's going to be my wild story in a bit here. But I'd say one thing is that I've written a book. I'm self-published. The book is called Choosing Fulfillment is Scary AF, and it can be found on Amazon. It's an easy read, pocket book of encouragement that I love to put out there for people. But other thing that people are like, is that I love to dance. And my favorite classes are hip hop classes or Afro classes. So there's just like the beats and the vibes. They're just so fun. And when I'm too in my head or I'm really stressed and I'm really stuck in my mind, that's when I know I need to go to a class because I need to get out of my head and into my body. And it's the perfect environment for me to fail in a safe space.
Yes.
So they teach moves, they teach things, and when I'm in my body, but then I try it and I'm like, I messed up, and I laugh about it. And so it's a super, because there's no repercussions. It doesn't matter if I'm in the class and no one else is doing it perfectly. And so it's a perfect way to fail in a safe space while doing something fun, gets me out of my head and into my body, and it's just a vibe.
I love that. I have a trampoline. Like a rebounder, and I jump on the rebounder anytime I need to get circulation going, get back into my body. And you're right, we're, as entrepreneurs, we're so much in our heads all the time, day and night. Like I even dream about work. I'll get ideas when I'm dreaming or meditating.
Totally.
Yeah. And getting back into the body, I think is crucial. And you could really only do that through movement.
Yep. I love the trampoline. That's a big regulation tool.
Yes, it works really well. A few years ago, my daughter was quite upset. I can't remember what she was angry about, but she was almost hysterical. And I said to her, okay, let's start jumping up and down. So I grabbed her hands and we started jumping up and down as hard as we could go. And then she went from being incredibly upset to just laughing out loud. And it was a great way for her to disperse that energy and shift her mindset. And I think it's so powerful.
Yep. It really is powerful. The body is not tapped into enough. That's really where so much of our wisdom lies. It's where our baselines are. It's where our capacity is. It's where our truth and trust live. And I think as entrepreneurs, I'm learning this. Like I'm in the depths of it. I've spent the last year doing a somatic certification. And now I realize even in a deeper way that this is where we change the game. And this is where we build sustainable businesses. This is where we build sustainable impact. Because how many entrepreneurs do you talk to that burn out or they fall apart or they hit adrenal fatigue? I've even talked to entrepreneurs that have had to put themselves in the psych ward because they couldn't sleep and they were too high strung and they couldn't get a handle on themselves, that they just needed significant help for a few days. And then they were out and they were fine. But then they just go back to the same repeated cycle. But guaranteed, their body was screaming at them way before that happened. But they didn't pause or slow down or listen enough to stop.
Yeah.
They didn't listen.
Yeah.
So the body tells us everything we need to know, but we just are moving so fast and we ignore the cues or we don't want to hear them.
Yes. Yes. Or you'll say, I'll deal with it later.
Yes.
I don't have time to deal with it now.
I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I still say that sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I think we touched on this, but let me know if you have anything else to add. What advice would you give other female entrepreneurs?
I think it's that only you can do it your way. And if you're building a business, your value proposition is going to be how you do it differently. And so often we try to follow frameworks or what other people have done, or this is what building a business looks like. This is what service looks like. And we follow the frameworks of what society says. And then we wonder why it doesn't work, or where there's all this cookie cutter, same things on the market. Your value is going to come from your authenticity. You are different, who you are as a person, and embracing and weaving in your personal identity with your business identity. And being able to align those two together, that is what sets you apart. Not generic AI, not generic frameworks, baseline software and systems that support what we do, but the front-facing work. You are the key to being different, and you are the key that is going to shine through. And so I would say, stop hiding who you are and really start to step into your true alignment so you can have the impact you can here.
Yes. Yes. I love that. And I think that's when imposter syndrome drops off.
Because there's no imposter if you're just being yourself. And that goes back to being an entrepreneur is just really a relationship with you and yourself and who you want to be and who you accept yourself as.
Oh, I love that. That's very well put. Yeah. All right, Sara, what's your one wild story?
Okay, wild story. I was trying to think. I asked her, is there something I need to prepare for our conversation today? And she said, nope, just bring yourself, but come with one wild story. And so I was like, I should use an entrepreneurial story. But this one kept coming up for me. So I'm going to share this travel story. I was about probably 21, 22. So it's been a while ago. But I was traveling through Southeast Asia by myself. I did a solo trip. Was over there for about 6 months. And I did some volunteering, then had some solo time when I was able to travel on my own. And I was in Vietnam at the time. Absolutely beautiful country. I would love to go back and see how much it has changed. But I was in northern Vietnam, and there's so many different landscapes from the north to the south. But I was in the north, and if you keep going further north is where you hit more of the mountainous regions. Now, we're not talking Rocky Mountains. We're talking more foothill style mountains, but they were all rice fields built into this landscape. And you could just see for miles and miles these mountainous rice fields that just covered the landscape. And so I wanted to go from Hanoi, which is the capital, up to Sapa, which is up in the mountains. And because I was a poor post-university graduate traveling through Southeast Asia with my backpack, I needed to do these things as cheap as possible. So I took an overnight train from Hanoi up to Sapa. It was about an 8-hour train ride. And I didn't opt for the bunk beds. I didn't opt for the comfy, cozy spots. I opted to just be in the regular car where all the locals would be traveling. And I didn't really know where I was getting on and off. There weren't signs. There weren't ticket men or anything like that. And so I was sitting in my seat. We were going up the train. And then this gentleman sat beside me and I had my headphones in and he just kept looking at me. But he didn't speak much English, but he tried to ask me my name, where I was from. And then I was listening to music and he asked to listen. And I was like, being friendly when you're traveling, I'm a very open and friendly person. And so we started listening to my headphones. And then he started holding my hand. Then he wanted to touch my hair. And so then it started to get a little bit uncomfortable where I was like, this is interesting. And so then I had to start shying away from him. And then at one point, his stop had came up and him and his family and a few other people, they were getting off the train. And I had told him where I was heading. And he was like, hey, let's go. And I asked him, is this Sapa? Is this where I'm going? And he was like, yep. So I grabbed my backpack, got to the door. Him and his friends or family, they had gotten off the train, like anticipating for me to jump off. And there was just this nudge where I was like, I don't know if this is my stop. And so there was a little conductor guy that wasn't controlling the door. And I asked him, is this Sapa? And he was like, no. And basically told me to go sit back down. But I was this close to jumping off the train into a random Vietnamese town between Hanoi and Sapa, speaking no Vietnamese, because this guy told me that this was my stop. And so this is where trusting yourself and your instincts really comes in. But it was such a interesting experience. And I laugh about it now. And at no point did I really feel afraid. But it's a funny story of things that can happen when you're in environments that are new to you. And it's really where I find your instincts kick in. So travel stories are always a good one.
Yes, no kidding. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you are safe, that you didn't get off on that stop and that you listened to your intuition. Because who knows how that could have ended. Yeah, that is pretty wild. Do you still travel on your own?
I do. I don't want to anymore, but as a single woman, solopreneur, I don't let it hold me back, where I still want to go places. I just don't usually do hostels anymore. I don't do overnight train rides. I'm a little bit, I'm going to say safer.
Yes, I can relate to that. I think for me, it was having my daughter that got me to move away from more reckless decisions, such as skydiving, for example. Yeah, so I'm definitely a lot more risk averse in life, which is funny because entrepreneurship is all about taking risks.
Totally.
Anyways, it all works out. Thank you so much for sharing that wild story, Sara. And thanks everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Sara as much as I did. If you're a fempreneur and would like to be a guest on the podcast, please reach out. I'd love to speak to you. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Why not become a podcast host yourself? Libby is a community podcast, and we would love to have your voice as a host or a guest. Check out show.libby.ca for more information, show notes, and links for every episode.
This episode is brought to you by New Idea Machine, a unique blend of a tech incubator and a software development powerhouse. We're not just building software, we're crafting the next generation of homegrown tech wizards. Got a project in mind or looking to hire fresh talent? Reach out and let's make tech magic happen. Visit newideamachine.com for more info.
Music for the show was created by Tony Del Deegan.